I'm Liz Burrell, and welcome to the Big Green Egg Grilling Show. Each week we bring you something new in the world of grilling, roasting, smoking, and baking, along with tips, tricks, and of course, great cooking segments. During each show, we'll teach you how to flavor or season your cooks, introduce you to new Big Green Egg accessories and how best to use them, and we'll answer questions sent to us on various social media channels, as well as questions sent to mailbag@biggreenegg.com. Thanks for tuning in. Now let's get to today's questions in our mailbag. Today's questions, we have Charles from Jackson. If I bake desserts on the egg, won't they taste like smoke? I have never personally had this happen, so no. Most desserts take about an hour to cook, maybe just a little bit over, and in that time period, you're not really imparting that much of the smoke flavor on to your dessert. And you know what? Today we're going to be doing cheesecake, so I'll be able to prove that to you. It's going to taste just like honey and lemon, like I intended it to. Now this goes the same for cookies, it goes the same for pies. Now if you wanted a smoky flavor in your dessert, which is possible, you could put wood chips or chunks if you want to add it, but most likely not so much. So we'll be able to show you today with our cheesecake how beautiful it's going to turn out. Now our second question is Justin from Charleston. What can I use the Big Green Egg Dutch oven for? Great question, and I just so happen to have all of our Dutch ovens here. We have our 5.5 quart enameled cast iron Dutch oven, our 4.2 quart enameled cast iron Dutch oven, and our just normal cast iron Dutch oven with our new handle. Now, I don't know if you've seen the old handles, but if you had your heat glove on and you couldn't get it underneath, now there's enough room for you to do that. So there's a lot of things that you can do with these Dutch ovens. You know, the enamel cast iron, these are great because the top can be used as a serving plate. You could do desserts in this. It's very versatile. Now, typically what I like to do is in our enameled cast iron Dutch ovens, I'll braise something, you know, carnitas, braise short ribs, dump cakes, anything like that. Our cast iron Dutch oven is great for chilies and heavier soups and stews. So overall, very versatile. You can do a lot with them, and everything is going to taste good when they come out because it's a Big Green Egg. So that was it for today's mailbag questions. Let's move on to today's dessert. Today's recipe is my Honey Lemon Cheesecake. Now this recipe is kind of near and dear to my heart because just recently I found an old recipe book and my great-grandmother had a recipe in from Jessamine County in Kentucky where my great-grandfather was the mayor and she had a lemon cheesecake. So I kind of took after her without even knowing it. So I'm pretty excited about that. We're going to go ahead and start with our crust. So we're going to use 2.5 cups of finely crushed graham crackers, 3/4 of a cup of butter melted, and 1/4 cup sugar. So let's go ahead and start on that. We're going to pour our butter in here. And I find it's easier to use my hands to mix this because you really want to make sure that it gets really well incorporated. Now, an interesting fact about cheesecake is that it actually dates all the way back to 2000 BC in Greek history. They've got proof that it actually was served to some Olympians. Now, of course, it was really, really different than what I'm making right now. It actually only had honey, wheat flour, and some crushed cheese, which I don't know what crushed cheese is, but I'm sure it was pretty good anyway. So let's go ahead and put this in our springform pan. Now you want to make sure that you wrap this with aluminum foil. It's going to make sure that it doesn't leak into your egg and also hold some of that moisture in. And we are going to press it down. Make sure there are no holes at the bottom. And we're going to go up about 1 inch on the sides here. Now, another interesting fact about cheesecake is that cream cheese was invented in the United States, and we are actually the ones who added cream cheese to the cheesecake. Before it was just you know, some sort of crushed cheese. You know, Italians use ricotta. So we are the ones that invented that. This is also a Chicago-style cheesecake, which means it has the addition of sour cream. All right, so we are done there. That's looking great, nice and pressed down. So we're gonna put this on the egg. We have it at about 325, 350 degrees, and we're gonna let it set and kind of brown up a little bit. And while we do that, we are going to make our delicious filling here. Now, something very, very important when we're making cheesecake is that our cream cheese is room temperature. If not, it's gonna get kind of lumpy, and we don't want a lumpy cheesecake. So this has been sitting probably for an hour or two outside of the fridge. And you'll see once I start mixing, it gets really creamy super fast. So we're gonna mix it here. Not too fast. Something important with cheesecake is you don't want to overwork the batter, but you do want it to get pretty creamy. And cream cheese just like smells so good when it's mixing. And I don't know, maybe it just reminds me of my childhood because my mom used to make cheesecake a lot. And you can do so many different flavors of cheesecake. You know, I decided to do honey lemon. You can do lavender, you can do chocolate, key lime. I bet you could even do peach. Since we're in Georgia, you can do peach cheesecake. All right, so we're gonna knock it down a little bit, and we're gonna start to cream our cream cheese with sugar. So we're gonna use 1.25 cups of sugar. And you wanna add this slowly because we're creaming it. We're not trying to overdo it or make it lumpy, like I said. And you can kind of see up on the edges where it's getting lumpy because the sugar hasn't been mixed in. And once we finish adding all the sugar, we're gonna take a spatula and get all of that off the edges so that it mixes completely. And it's looking really, really good, really smooth. Add this last bit of sugar there. Gonna turn this guy off, open it up, and scrape the edges down. We wanna make sure that we have a really smooth cheesecake. Cheesecake is my absolute favorite. All right, so now we are gonna go in with 4 eggs. We also want those to be room temperature. We're gonna do this slowly, kind of like everything else with the cheesecake. 1 at a time until the yellow disappears. Now, after we finish putting our eggs in our cheesecake, we are gonna add our 1.25 cups of sour cream. Now, let's scrape our sides down one more time. This is looking really beautiful. Got a great color, it smells really good. Now, the fun part is when we add our lemon extract and our honey, then it really, really starts to smell good. Add our sour cream in here. All right. And as you can see, this is really, really messy, which makes it fun if you want to do this with your kids. It gets, I swear, everything gets everywhere. All right, so now we are gonna add our 2 tablespoons of lemon extract, 2 tablespoons of vanilla, 3 tablespoons of honey, and 1 tablespoon of cornstarch. This is gonna help the cheesecake not to crack. Now, we're also gonna use water inside the egg in a bowl to help keep the inside really, really moist while we're cooking this cheesecake. So let's go ahead and add our extracts here. Oop, not as fast as I just did. Don't make that mistake. I'm gonna smell like lemon for the rest of the day. Very, very slowly. Turn it down a little bit. Add our honey here. Now you can do this with any honey that you like. I personally, my favorite is Tupelo honey. Just has a really unique flavor. And I highly suggest using a honey that's local to you. Not only does it help with, you know, allergies, but your immune system. I can't tell you how good this smells right now. Now I'm really, really hungry for cheesecake. All right, just try to get the last bit. Obviously, you know, honey is sticky. All right, now we're gonna add our cornstarch. Like I said, this really helps the cheesecake not to crack. Cornstarch can be a little stubborn too. So now we're gonna add just a little bit of yellow food coloring for color. And we're gonna do a really cool trick with this too when we're about to start cooking our cheesecake. So I put about 3 drops or so, just a little bit, and that's up to you because we're gonna use more of this later. It is time to pull off our crust, and we're gonna let that cool for 10 minutes before we put our mixture in. So this cheesecake crust has been cooling for about 10 minutes. Now it is time to add our delicious filling and do our pretty little kind of tie-dye design that I like to do. So let's go ahead and pour this in here. How beautiful is that? Now cheesecake is awesome because it freezes really, really well. So if you make a cheesecake and you know you're like, oh, I don't get to use this week or today, you make it ahead of time, it freezes really well, and it will also last up to 3 days in the fridge. So let's take our food coloring. You can do as much or little of this as you want. This is actually yellow. I know that it looks orange, but it is in fact yellow. We're going to take our big green egg bamboo skewer and just start making little swirls in our cheesecake here. Now this is just a fun trick. You know, makes it a little extra interesting for your dinner party or whatever you're going to. Or if you're just eating it by yourself at home, which is probably what I'm gonna do after this. And look how gorgeous that is. And this pattern does stay once it is cooked. How beautiful. All right, so let's go ahead and put our beautiful cheesecake on the egg. We're gonna put a little water bath on the side so that the air stays extra moist. And we are gonna let this cook for about an hour to an hour and 10 minutes, or until the sides are golden and brown and the inside is kind of jiggly. It's gonna continue to cook after you take it off the egg, and we're gonna have to let it rest for 2 to 3 hours, and then it needs to sit in the refrigerator for up to 24 hours before you enjoy it. So let's get to our tips from the experts. We're gonna talk about burping and why burping is so important. Burping is the act of slowly opening your egg to introduce oxygen back to the flames. So here's how you burp the egg. And like I said, this is very important because you're reintroducing oxygen to the flame, and as we all know, fire really, really loves oxygen. So this is going to prevent flashbacks. So make sure that you do this every single time that you cook. It's a great safety tip, and it's going to make you have a much better cooking experience. So that was our tips from the expert today. Let's get back to our cheesecake. So our cheesecake cooked for about an hour, maybe an hour, 10 minutes. Now we've cooled this for 24 hours. You'll notice that when you take your cheesecake off the egg that it kind of is puffed up. Now it's gonna fall. You wanna make sure that you leave your cheesecake on a cooling rack for 2 to 3 hours after you're done cooking so that it falls correctly and doesn't get that many cracks in it. Now some cracks are normal. Like I said earlier, the cornstarch really, really helps those cracks to come back together once it's cooled. Then after those 2 to 3 hours, you're gonna put it back into the refrigerator, 24 hours. Now this cheesecake is ready, so we're gonna go ahead and remove it from our tin foil. And we're going to release it from our springform pan. Man, is that beautiful or what? I'm excited about this cheesecake. I don't know how y'all are feeling yet, but I am. And straight onto our plate. Now, if you have any cracks, you can see I have a little bit of a crack right here. It's fine, doesn't make it taste any different. You can put some lemons on top to make it look beautiful. Give it a little kind of Shazam there, and then cut into it and enjoy. Well, that's it for today's show. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I hope that you enjoyed my honey lemon cheesecake and that I've inspired you to try something new on your Big Green Egg at home. If you're not an egger yet, please head to biggreenegg.com, where we make it easy to get started with online home delivery by a dealer in your community. Once again, I'm Liz Burrell. Please tune in next time when I have another surprise in store for you.
There's a place where fire and flavor are celebrated. Grill it, roast it, smoke it, or bake it. It's the most versatile grill you'll ever own. Have it delivered to your door by a certified dealer in your community and start enjoying the ultimate cooking experience. Visit biggreenegg.com.